Hey guys, it's Cummings as my review for Christopher Robin, and what Christopher Robin is essentially about is, of course, as we know, Christopher Robin and Pooh, they had this great relationship, but one of the things that Christopher Robin always told Pooh is that he will never forget him. Well, unfortunately, that's what happens. He ends up leaving the 100-acre wood, he goes over to boarding school, he basically lives in the real world for a very long time, and eventually he does forget about Pooh, and we follow him as he becomes an adult now. He now has his own family as well as a daughter, and he is much more focused on work and he works at like this, bank or whatever, and he is, like I said, is much more focused on work. And when him and his family want to take this, this vacation, basically, he unfortunately isn't able to do so because he is too focused on his work and things like that. And one day when he is, kind of contemplating what to do, he ends up having a run-in with Pooh and his old friends, and basically he uses this opportunity to simultaneously reunite Pooh and the 100-acre gang. But also, as time goes on, he starts to remember the importance of just fun and being a child, and that there really is nothing wrong with, reuniting with your friends and things like that. And that's really all I'm going to say. So Christopher Robin in general, I was very excited for this movie. As someone who grew up with Winnie the Pooh as a young kid, this is something that I was very much looking forward to. I think Winnie the Pooh, it's just one of those stories that just screams innocence and just pure whimsical fun, and that's really all it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a series that just makes you forget about the troubles of the world and just reminds you of when you were a little kid and you used to have fun and you used to just, be creative and pretend with all your friends. And that's really all I wanted this to be. I wanted this to be a really nostalgic reminder of the importance of being young and, just having that fun as a kid. And that's exactly what I got. Christopher Robin is pretty much everything it really could have been. It's nothing too complex, but I think that really is its greatest strength, is how simplistic that it really is. Similar to the last film I just reviewed, 8th Grade, it's very similar to this film. But we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And the cast here, I think, is really, really great. I think really everyone did a very good job here. Everyone really does stand out. Of course, we have to talk about Ewan McGregor as Christopher Robin, who I always was very confident about, and I'm happy to say he doesn't disappoint. He absolutely delivered as this character. Is this a more sort of stern, very hard Christopher Robin who isn't nearly as just light and fun as he used to be? Yes, but it makes sense because he's a lot older and he hasn't really gone back to the 100-acre wood in a very long time. So when he's going back there, of course he's not going to be as carefree as he once was. He is much more focused on just maintaining this order and always focusing on work and not really setting aside any time for himself and his family. And I think he did a very good job with that. When he needs to be fun, he does a really good job. When he needs to be very stern, he does a very good job with that. And I do think McGregor did add a few more layers to this character that wasn't there. You do see a genuine transformation that Robin does end up going through. I thought he did a very good job as this character. I love seeing him interact with Pooh and the gang. It never really felt like it never really felt fake, his interactions. It's a very reactionary role, but I think overall he did a very good job here. And I do think he was very well cast overall. I really did like him in this film. And then Hayley Atwell as his wife, Evelyn. Nothing too big with her in this movie, but I think she had just enough. A lot of people are saying she's underused, and I don't really know what you expected out of this character. She's basically what you expect. She's someone who, she's a bit discouraged with him because, again, he's too focused on work, and she feels like he needs to just relax and have fun with his family, and he doesn't fully understand that. And I really did enjoy their relationship overall. I think these two did overall work very well together, and I do think she was very well here. But someone who I actually really loved in this film, who I don't think is getting enough credit, is Bronte Carmichael as Robin's daughter, Madeline, who that is actually the main relationship of the film, is this father-daughter relationship. There's a really nice conflict going on between these two, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but I really liked her character. She basically is what Robin was when he was a kid. She's someone, what Robin, wasn't as a kid. She's someone who she doesn't get to have fun. There's a scene in the movie where her mom tells her to go have fun, and she doesn't really know how to do that because, again, Robin is too focused on just work and sending her to boarding school, and just seeing her interact with Pooh and the gang when that eventually does happen, I really did love seeing. I love the chemistry between him and his daughter. I definitely do want to see her more stuff because I thought she was very strong here, and I really did like her in this role. She was very good here. And then, of course, Pooh and the gang. Of course, they are all fantastic. Jim Cummings is just as great as he ever was as Pooh. You just get this really cute, innocent feeling whenever Pooh starts speaking. It really touches your heart, and he's still got it, honestly. After all these years, he still has that character down pat, and it doesn't feel like, all these years without voicing Pooh. He got right back into it, and I think he did a phenomenal job here. Same with him as Tigger. He still does a really great job. As far as the new cast go, I think everyone was very well casted, but I really want to give a shout out to Brad Garrett, who I thought was so spot on as Eeyore. This honestly might be one of my favorite voice castings of Eeyore ever. I think he had the character down so well. The very sort of cynical view of Eeyore, he just understood, and I think Eeyore honestly was probably my favorite character in this movie. He had so many hilarious lines. There's so much, like I said, very dark humor, but he does it so well, and I really just loved Eeyore in this film a lot. I thought he was a lot of fun to watch, but you also really care for Eeyore because he is so depressed, and you do want him to lighten up a bit, and I think Garrett did a very good job. Really, everyone I thought was very well casted here. I don't really think anyone wasn't on their A game, and I think everyone did a very good job. But let's talk about the directing here by Marc Forster, who I thought did a very good job with this movie. What I really loved about Marc Forster is that he doesn't try to make this very, ultra dark and depressing, which I've heard a lot of people say it is, and I don't really understand that. Sure, this film is a little bit more grounded in reality than some of the other Winnie the Pooh films, but it never takes itself too seriously. It is a very fun, silly film, and that's what I'm very happy. That's exactly what I wanted it to be. Again, I'm not looking for anything too complex or anything too, anything too just melancholy. I want something that does feel like Winnie the Pooh, and this very much did feel like that. I think that the tone, while like I said, it does get a bit dramatic at times, it never really did get too heavy-handed. It made sense why they had to go a little bit darker because, again, Christopher Robin is on his own in this world, and he is facing, the troubles of the real world, and we're seeing some things that he had to go through. But again, it always did maintain that fun atmosphere that we've come to know from this series, and I think they did a very good job with that. The writing, on the other hand, I thought also was very good, and like I said, one of the biggest things about this is that it is very simplistic. It's not something that is too overly complex. If you were looking for a character study about someone who's going through a midlife crisis and someone who is, very depressed all the time, that's not what this movie is. And I don't really know what you expected it to be because that's not at all what this is. This is much more simplistic than that. Essentially, what we're going for here is sort of a Mr. Banks character, someone who, like I said, is very focused on work. He doesn't really care much about, sort of more trivial things that are, like playing and just being a kid. He doesn't really care about that. And sure, we've seen that characterization a lot, but the way this movie does it, it approaches it in a way that does actually feel rich and feels new. And again, it's because it's territory that this series has not really dived into yet. And that's something I actually really did enjoy. I like seeing this character of Christopher Robin not as, whimsical and not someone who is as into everything that Pooh and the gang are. Sure, when he's with them, you do get that sense that he still remembers the time he had with them. It's not like he's completely forgotten about it, but he's just not as interested. He's not as focused on it, and you definitely do get that sense here, and I definitely did enjoy seeing that characterization. That being said, though, I will say that while I do think the characterization of Christopher Robin is pretty spot on throughout the film, there are some times in the movie where it doesn't necessarily feel like he went through the most natural transformation. It kind of felt like 1 second he was discouraged at his family because, you know, he wanted to send his daughter off to boarding school or whatever, and then the next second he meets Pooh and the 100 Acre Wood Gang, he suddenly feels like being a kid again. So yes, the transformation did not feel the most natural. I did feel that the transition between him being very stern and him being a lot more fun and caring, it just did not feel the most natural. Didn't really feel like he grew as much as he could have, but I do think they did a good job with it overall, and I was having a lot of fun with this story. And here's the thing, I will admit the first 10 to 15 minutes of this film I did think were a little bit rocky. The family dynamic is not the most compelling at first. You don't really understand why he can't just, you know, spend time with his family and why he is so set on working, because, you know, he's told that he has a few days to make this decision about, you know, who he wants to cut and things like that. And, you know, his family even brings up, well, you know, you can just work with us at this, you know, this vacation house or whatever. You know, you don't necessarily have to keep doing it here, but for some reason he's very focused on it and you don't really understand it. But once we saw Pooh and the gang, I just immediately got into it, and I just couldn't help but light up. I mean, just seeing those characters, like I said, they just give you so much innocence, they give you so much joy, and they just remind you about being a kid again. And what I really love about Christopher Robin, more than anything, is how classic it really feels. Are there some moments in this movie that do feel a bit new? And sure, there are some moments here and there, but for the most part, this really felt like a classic Disney movie, something that came out in like the 1970s that I would watch as a little kid, something we're going to pass on from generation to generation. And we just don't really get kids' movies like this anymore. This is not a film that revels in just, oh, characters coming to the real world. That's not at all what this is. Sure, they do come to the real world, but they're not just there to goof off and laugh at the latest Disney product or whatever. That's not at all what this is. People have been comparing this to the Smurfs, and I think that is a really awful comparison. This really is a very touching sort of father-daughter story that I really did enjoy. I think that it made sense for Pooh and the gang to come to the 100 Acre Wood. It really does bring the series full, you know, to come to the real world. It really does bring the series full circle, and I think they overall did a very good job with that. I really did enjoy this story overall. And I really did love the main story that was going on here. And like I said, once you factor Madeline into it, and the clash between her and her father, where basically he wants to send her off to boarding school because this is kind of what he did as a kid. This is, you know, what he's known. She's not necessarily into it. And the transformation that she went through, I thought was actually the strongest out of them all. I really did love where Madeline ends up going in this film. And I think the father-daughter storyline really did anchor this film in a way that I really wasn't expecting. And I honestly really did love that. Once again, though, the film is still not perfect. There still are a couple things that I just need a little bit more from. Specifically, when we cut to Christy, when we cut to Robin and him and his co-workers, that part of the film does kind of sink a little bit there. It's just not the strongest part of it. They're very over the top, particularly Marc Gatiss in the film is very over the top, very cartoony at points, and I just never really cared as much about what was going on there. You kind of forget about like I said, once Pooh and all of them arrive, you get so sucked into it that I just didn't really, it wasn't really as much of a hindrance to my overall enjoyment of the film. And I also will say this, the CGI in this film is so on point. It is probably some of the most realistic and some of the most impressive CGI I have seen in a live action film of this scale in a very long time. I mean, these guys just look so real. It look like they were stuffed animals. When they're talking and you hear Christopher Robin say, oh, that's just my daughter's stuffed animal, you really do feel it. At no point does it feel like he's interacting with nothing. It always feels like something is there, and they did such an incredible job with that. And for anyone who was worried, no, they do not look creepy. They really did keep that, they do obviously look a little bit real, but what they're really going for here is they're trying to look like A.A. Milne, I think that's how you pronounce it, his original vision, what these characters originally did look like. And I think it actually was very nostalgic in the way. It was a good tribute to him, and I really did enjoy that overall, and I think they definitely did a very good job with that. So the CGI I thought was very much on point. I really did love the world as well. When you cut to the 100-acre wood, I mean, again, it just feels so natural. It feels like you're just getting to be a kid again. It's so creative, and I like that the 100-acre wood in this movie, it's not as beautiful as it once was. Sure, there are points where it is, but with Christopher Robin away, the 100-acre wood has actually kind of seen its better. It's seen its heyday pretty much. It's kind of beaten up. It's a little bit more gloomy than it used to be, and I did like seeing Christopher Robin kind of have to go back in there and turn things around again and brighten it up to what it used to be. And I just thought that was a really nice storyline overall. Also, the film is very funny. I was laughing a lot throughout this movie, whether it was something that Eeyore said, interactions that Pooh has in the real world. This film really does not fall short on comedy. I really, like I said, was enjoying it. There was rarely a time when I wasn't laughing. Really just those scenes in the office in the beginning were just a little bit concerning to me. But as it went on, I really was enjoying it, and I just thought it was a lot of fun to watch here. The score also is very good. They do, of course, give you the classic Winnie the Pooh score in the beginning, and you definitely do feel it. There are some nods to some things that if you're a huge Winnie the Pooh fan, I think you're definitely going to be very pleased with for sure. But there also is this very new sort of creative and fun score that I also really did love, particularly this one scene when Pooh and Robin are going onto this train station. The music in that scene was just so fun and so energetic, and I really loved what they did with this score. I don't know who the composer was, but I really did love the score here. It was a lot of fun to listen to, and the editing. The film honestly really did fly by for me. I never really did feel the runtime once in this movie. It was really only the first like 10 to 15 minutes when I really was feeling it. But like I said, once Pooh and the gang came into it, I really did get into this film overall. Overall, guys, Christopher Robin is pretty much everything I wanted it to be. It's nothing too over the top. It's nothing too, dramatic or really that deep. But at the end of the day, that's not really what Winnie the Pooh is. Sure, there are things you can maybe complain about, little nitpicks here and there about Robin's characterization. But again, it's really just supposed to be a innocent, fun family film, and we just don't really see that a lot, and I think that alone is enough of a reason to enjoy this movie. This is definitely a very good late summer hit. It's a very good film for families, and one that I really do hope a lot really do see, because like I said, we just don't get a lot of films like this anymore, and I really do hope that, with Disney bringing back things like Winnie the Pooh and Mary Poppins, that we start to see a resurgence of that, because I do think it can still work nowadays. I can definitely see this being a movie that, kids years from now do watch and they do fall in love with, because there are a lot of things to really love about this film. Is it a little bit more grounded than some other Winnie the Pooh films? Sure, it's a little bit more mature, but at the same time, it does retain that innocence, that joy, that sweetness that we've come to know in this series, and that's really all I could have asked for. And I am going to give Christopher Robin overall a B+. So overall, guys, in my review of Christopher Robin, let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall, left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which, by the way, guys, big thank you to 22 Tiger Dude here. I unfortunately do not have my regular laptop on me. I am using a backup laptop that does not have the editing software that I usually use, and unfortunately I don't have a way to edit my videos. So all the videos you will see for like the next week or so are actually going to be edited by 22 Tiger Dude. So again, big thank you to him. He's taking a lot of time out of his schedule to do this, and I definitely do thank him a lot for it. He did not need to do that. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.